there and welcome to our show, The Shit No One Tells You About Writing. I'm Bianca Murray and I'm joined by Carly Waters and Cece Lira from PS Literary Agency. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Books with Hooks. Before we dive in today, we have a very exciting announcement to make. As some of you will know, my next book, A Most Puzzling Murder, comes out in June. And to celebrate, we'll be having an epic launch party in which Carly, Cece, and myself will get together to do our very first in real life event since we started the podcast more than 4 years ago. It's kind of crazy that we haven't gotten together to do an in real life event in all this time, and now we're finally doing it. So please book your calendars for the 9th of June if there's any way that you can travel to Toronto for it. We'll have an incredible lineup at a downtown Toronto theatre space with entertainment that includes a musical number, stand-up comedy, and a really kick-ass MC. That's Master of Ceremonies in this instance, not main character. Carly and Cece will critique my query and opening pages in a not-to-be-missed hilarious Books with Hooks segment. We're going to have amazing literary prizes up for grabs, and you'll get to meet some of your favorite authors who'll also be attending as my guests. Plus, you'll get to chat and mingle with us, but most importantly, you'll get to meet and interact with other members of the Tea Snot Your community, because that's what we've always been about, building community. Now, further details about the guest authors, prizes, and entertainment will be announced on our socials and in our newsletter, so keep your eyes peeled for that, as well as the on-sale date for the tickets, because they will be limited. For now, just diarize the 9th of June and let all your writing besties know to do the same. You absolutely don't want to miss it. We are so excited. Okay, Carly, we're going to now throw it across to you to kick us off with our first query letter.
All right. Well, what is more exciting than us all being in person? Well, a really great query letter. That is the answer. So let's get into it. Dear Bianca, Carly, and Cece, thank you for becoming the writerly voices in my head. Whether it's leaning into the mismatch between dialogue and interiority or finally finding the right way into the building, you've become my prized Greek chorus. I'm directing my query to Carly in particular because of your interest in unique memoirs, and excluding this paragraph, the query is 383 words. Orson Welles once wrote, "If you want a happy ending, that depends, of course, on where you stop your story." My debut memoir, All the Bleeding Stops Eventually, follows a devoted pandemic physician as she confronts her expandability and ultimately leaves behind the career she loved, only to pivot again months later when her healthy partner becomes bedridden with long COVID. Pitched as the adrenaline and humanity of ER and Farzan Nabi's Code Grey meets the lived experience of chronic illness in Megan O'Rourke's The Invisible Kingdom, with a slightly different lyricism to butt joke calibration, my proposal is complete and the manuscript is projected at 75,000 words. As an ER doctor of nearly 2 decades, I was content enough with my hamster wheel existence of work, family life, until a new virus erupted half a world away and changed everything. The next 18 months would find me working in a pop-up field hospital and making choices that would have once been unimaginable. Teetering towards PTSD, I swallowed my pride, waved a white flag, and asked for a short unpaid respite. When my request is denied because, quote, everyone else would want to too, end quote, I shocked myself by walking away from it all. The happy ending version would feature a montage of reconnecting with loved ones and relearning myself. It's a denouement, a weepy scene in a pumpkin patch where I felt joy again for the first time in years. But, of course, the real story didn't stop, especially months later when our family got COVID and only 3 of the 4 of us got better. I live outside San Francisco with my husband, 2 pretty cool teenagers, and a rotating menagerie of foster kittens. My essays have appeared on air for NPR and in print outlets like the San Francisco Chronicle. I've been interviewed about leaving medicine for The Atlantic and NPR, among others. Since my husband got sick, I've been collaborating with government agencies like HHS and NIH to improve long COVID care. When not serving as our family's Uber driver, I can be found hiking, exploring local thrift shops, and enjoying buttery pastries with friends. Of note, I parted amicably with my prior agent, and this project has never been on submission. The first 5 pages are included below. Thank you for your time and consideration. Warmly, Molly Phelps, MD.
Awesome, Carly. Thank you. Interesting, the postscript I would love for us to discuss as well, because we get that question a lot. What should we say if this is the instance? So I'd love to know if you think she's dealt with that well, and also page count before you dive into the rest of it, please.
Absolutely. So 383 words, they said excluding the first paragraph, but we always know we need that first paragraph in some capacity. So a little bit of a cheater one there. I'm saying it's 383, but that was a wink, wink, nod, nod, because clearly you're a listener of the show and you know that we always ask. So thank you for writing that in. We really appreciate it. Okay, so overall, this is super interesting because memoirs are one of those things where I love the idea, as this person says, of a unique memoir. But I fall in love with memoirs, and then they are one of the hardest things to sell. So I'm always, as an agent, I'm always like, okay, this is a great story. It's an incredible human story, but I really always have to put the brakes on to be like, okay, is this story special enough to kind of make it to the next level? So you definitely had me with the hook in terms of, if this is this an interesting project, but I always have, again, those brakes on to think, okay, is this going to stand out enough, even if it's a really great hook? So we have to think about so many other things when we think about memoir. So, okay, let's start at the top-ish here. So you use an Orson Welles quote. I felt like this was a risky thing to do because quoting another writer in your query letter, especially off the top, I mean, I understand you're trying to kind of frame what you're trying to do here, but it's also like highlighting a master writer. And if you don't live up to the quality of this quote, then it's kind of just showing a bit of a disparity potentially between how great of a writer Orson Welles is and where you are. So I don't know. I just felt like it was risky. I understand why you did it, and I think that it works because you do use this quote to frame your query letter. So to everybody else listening, this is not an endorsement of this technique because it is risky, but I do think it potentially works here. So that to say, this is an incredible title. You guys know I obsess about titles. All the bleeding stops eventually. Holy moly, that is a great title. So super, super well done there with the title. I loved that. As a hook, this really is rock solid, right? Follows a devoted pandemic physician, even though pandemic stuff can be a bit like, ugh, we do go into some interesting stuff here, right? Confronts her expendability, ultimately leaves behind the career she loved, only to pivot again when her healthy partner becomes bedridden with long COVID. So some people are going to be fatigued on COVID content. It's just a reality of, we do get a lot of content in this capacity. But it is something that a lot of people are grappling with long COVID, and I do think this is something where it does have the chance to stand the test of time as more research is done about long COVID. And so this conversation is not over by any means, but again, there could be potentially some fatigue here, just to flag that. Okay, the comps are really strong. Code Gray, Invisible Kingdom, great. I don't think we need ER, like the reference to the show. It is really old. It's obviously iconic, but your comps are strong, so I don't think we need that. I'll be honest, I didn't love the like lyricism to butt joke calibration line. Like, it's kind of funny, but I'm also like, I don't know, how many butt jokes does your book have that we need to talk about butt jokes? I don't know. I would probably strike it, but if you feel really strongly that you need to warn us about how many butt jokes there are, that's fine.
Can I just interrupt? You said I would probably strike it, but, and then you went into it. So that we'll take that as a pun, Carly. Carry on.
I am not the witty one. I am not known for all the puns, so thank you for recognizing my inadvertent pun. Okay, so now the actual meat of this query letter. Like, these two paragraphs are incredibly strong, but I do feel like you are stopping at the inciting incident. What happens in your actual book? You're starting off strong. I feel like we are hanging, so I would probably trim your two paragraphs and then actually get into telling me what the book is about. Because, again, no matter how strong your query letter is, I do still want to know what's going to happen in your actual book. This could be a situation where there's a proposal complete, but the manuscript isn't done. So you might not be entirely sure about where your own book is going. And this is a learning platform. So that's why you sent it to us. So all of that potentially makes sense to me. But if you were to be sending this out more widely, you would need to get into what is the revelation. We need some room to talk about what the revelations are in the actual book. Okay, now the last note that you wrote, I parted amicably with my prior agent. This project has never been on submission. Obviously, as Bianca said, this is incredibly interesting. Curious about what happened here. As an agent, I think, like, did you not agree on the direction of the book? Did your agent leave the business? I don't know, some sort of like partnership changes within the agency, mergers, acquisitions. Like, there could be a lot of reasons on the structural side of the agency why you left. There could also just be not agreeing on the direction of the book reasons. So yeah, I don't know. Thank you for telling us. Is this a red flag? No, I just think there is some stuff to unpack here. So I am glad that you told me that the project has never been on submission, because that's the important thing here. If you ended this with, I parted amicably with my prior agent, period, I'd be like, did they shop it around? What happened? Why are you pitching me now? So the fact that you say this project has never been on submission is the key information here. And amicably is always a good word to use. I'm not saying don't use the word amicably if it's not amicable, but it is a very, very key word here. And so clearly you've listened to the show, you listened to me talk about this, and Cece and Bianca as well. The word amicably is incredibly important. So well done on listening to the show. I can tell that you are an avid listener. So thank you for that.
A question before I hand it across to Cece. Considering that the book never went out on submission, is it necessary for her to say that she had an agent and they parted ways? Because I think it's really important for an agent to know if a book has been out on submission. Do you think it helps to say an agent already liked this project and wanted to represent me? Is it necessary? Is it not necessary?
That kind of went through my mind as well, about what are they trying to flag by saying this? What are they trying to signal to me? Because we know how important query letters are in terms of every word having to count. I figured they were probably trying to tell me that this book was good, this concept was good enough to get me an agent. Is probably what I was reading between the lines, which I think was what you were probably reading between the lines as well, Bianca. So in that case, it does the job of letting me know that there was some interest there. And I think if an agent was getting this who was maybe more junior, they might think, I really want to I want to get on this. If another agent saw some potential here and I see the potential, I'm going to jump on. A more senior agent might think more, are there yellow or red flags I need to navigate here? But overall, you didn't do anything wrong, to the writer that's listening. You didn't do anything wrong here. I think you did everything right, but there is some, curiosity and questions.
And maybe for our listeners, something to take away from here is that personalizing a query letter isn't just about that upfront paragraph about, I am pitching you because you have expressed an interest in this or that. It's also going, like Carly said, am I pitching a more junior agent who's going to look at this and go, ooh, another agent was interested and therefore they're going to jump on it? Or am I sort of pitching a more senior agent, in which case they might see this as a red flag, so I'm not going to include that line there. So personalization is more than just that sort of opening paragraph. Okay, Cece, handing it across to you now.
I don't see a character arc here. I think that's my note, and I think that Carly spoke to it. Carly, when you said you stop at the inciting incident, in my mind, I was like, oh my God, so her leaving the job is the inciting incident? Because that was one of the questions I had. I also thought it might be, but then I was like, maybe the book starts way before that. I don't see the story beats. We need to see inciting incident, escalating plot points, culminating into a climax. Instead, you let us know that you left medicine. Let us assume that is the inciting incident, right? But even if it's not. And then the next paragraph, you went into the happy ending version would feature like a montage and the pumpkin patch and all that, which is super witty and fun. But I don't want to know what your story would have been, I don't want that. I want to know what it was. And I'm guessing that you just don't know yet, that you're still figuring it out. And to Carly's point, this is an educational platform, so it's totally fine. But we need to read query letters as though they were capital R ready, because that's how we can give you feedback. So I think you have to figure out your character arc. And I would encourage you to think of this as fiction, specifically when it comes to the story beats, right? I'm not saying make stuff up. Of course not. It's a memoir. But I am saying, imagine that your memoir were fiction. Right? Imagine yourself as a protagonist. Imagine what the inciting incident would be. What are the escalating plot points? What's the climax? Who's the antagonist? These are all questions that I encourage memoirists to ask themselves, because I feel like it helps to take a step back and to look at yourself from the outside, to process yourself as a protagonist. So that's what I would do here. I think that your author paragraph is super impressive. I want to look up the articles you wrote. It's a really good job there. And yeah, good luck with your story.
Cece, just a question. What was your take on the line about sort of parting amicably with the agent? How did you respond to it? I'm just trying to show the subjectivity here.
Absolutely. So I don't think that you need to share, you do not have to, given that this has never been on submission. I think that on average, it helps. I do think that Carly's point is excellent. There are agents, more senior agents, who would be like, I wonder why you parted ways with your agent before this went out on submission. I wonder if it's because you're a difficult person to work with. Sorry, guys. that would cross through people's minds. Like, it's not nice, but it's the truth. I wonder if it's something else, right? And I don't think that that should necessarily stop you from including if you feel strongly about it. Personally, with me, when I get a query letter that says this, I tend to think, you know what? I don't even know if this was the book that she signed with her agent for. So I try to not let it affect me in any way. I know plenty of people who have signed with agents, and it doesn't make me go, oh, yay, that means their book is good, because it's so subjective. But it also doesn't make me feel, maybe there's something going on. Maybe they're a diva, because I don't know, there's just so much in this industry that could go into this decision. So I try to not think about it at all. I think that because the book has not been out on submission, your chances of this being better as opposed to worse are high.
My spidey senses as an agent tell me that this author wrote this article for the San Francisco Chronicle. An agent saw it. They signed them based on the article. And the agent got impatient with how long this proposal was taking to come together. That's what my spidey senses are telling me. This author could be like, Carly, you're up to lunch. That's what my spidey senses are telling me.
Yeah, just important for the author to know that, agents are going to try and fill in the blanks, and they may be wrong. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, Carly, what was in the opening pages? Can you please give us a summary?
All right, so we start with a prologue called a prologue. So I am not making any sneaky prologue references. It was called Prologue, Spring 1997. We start with our protagonist, our doctor character person. She is 23 years old. She is thinking that she wants to go into psychology. So she has mapped out her career to become a professor of clinical psychology. With the goal of working in the psychiatry ward, going to grad school for all of this. Her mentor suggests that she needs to try working in ER just to kind of make sure, that is the career path that she's looking for. Her mentor gets her kind of a walkthrough with an ER doctor to kind of shadow him for a shift. She goes to the hospital in Oakland, across the bay from San Francisco, to work in the hospital there, to work the ER shift. And then when she is there, she's immediately hooked by the job. Somebody comes in with a gunshot wound. They're doing CPR on him. This person does not make it out alive. And she learns things through the experience. And then she's kind of forever changed. And that's where we end.
Okay, so that's quite a long prologue if we're talking about the first 5 pages. Okay, so it's difficult to compare that to what's in chapter 1 to be able to go, is she starting in the right place? But what was your take on that?
Yeah, so big picture here is really, this is a doctor. Can this doctor write? Those are the first questions that are going through my mind. I get a lot of doctor pitches, doctor queries over the years where they could be the smartest person to walk this planet and they can't write a book, right? And so I'm thinking, can this person write? So for the purposes of how I'm evaluating this submission, kind of just goes back to what we were talking about with the query letter, which is this project isn't done yet. It is still in metamorphosis. As an agent stepping into this project at this stage, what value can I bring to this project, and how can I help this person as a creator and as an author, write the book that they set out to write? This is what I'm thinking. So when I read the first line, the first time I touched a dead body, I thought about breakfast cereal. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant line. So I'm thinking, okay, this doctor can write. So that frames, again, my understanding of how I'm going to read this. I have a couple notes about, this was a bit confusing here and there, but in terms of flow and being in scene, this person can also write that. So that was incredibly important to me. They really focused on moving us through what was happening. For example, we start off in this prologue with the psychiatry moment and then kind of, getting right into the ER moment. And there's kind of the asterisks, right through the middle of the page. You guys know what I'm talking about, to kind of show the time jumps. And that was exactly what we needed. We didn't need to spend time watching her drive in her car from her, from grad school to the hospital. We needed to be she got this walkthrough and now she's the next thing she's doing is in the hospital. So this person did a really good job moving us through what was happening. Another really incredible line, the scene that's happening is the CPR that I mentioned when I was doing the summary. And so she's watching people perform CPR and she says, it felt like watching choreography set to music that I couldn't hear. I'm like, that's exactly what it would be like, watching people perform this thing that CPR that they've done a million times, somebody coming into the ER, and you can see it is so beautiful and everybody knows and everybody has a job to do, but you have no idea how they get to that point of moving like that. And anybody that's kind of been a witness, in a hospital, like whether you've been in the hospital, I know, like giving birth, it's like all these doctors are moving around, these nurses, and everybody knows what to do, but like I don't know how to do the thing other than what I'm doing. And so I thought that was a really beautiful way, watching choreography set to music that I couldn't hear. So yeah, so to me, I have a really good sense that this person can write, which is very important to me when I'm working on a memoir from somebody who isn't a quote unquote natural writer or trained writer. That would be really important to me. So I can see a lot of pluses here. I think there's something to this story. I think this doctor can write, as I've said